How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of FSI's NASCAR DFS content. I am your host, TK Nation 47, making my humble return. Thank you, Mega, for picking up for me this morning when we were discussing, when you were discussing the truck race and the truck series. He absolutely nailed it with the call on John Hunter Nemechek over Kyle Busch in his cash lineups. And he profited, I profited, we all profited at FSI today. So big shout out to you, Mega Ruler 31. How are you doing this evening? And are you ready for some more racing at Richmond?
Yeah, it was a decent race today, and I think tomorrow's going to be interesting. Also, one of the things that we want to bring up is we talked about this pre-show is that it's not going to. The race probably isn't going to be delayed tomorrow because of weather, because it looks pretty good to start the race. However, possibly after the second phase, when the race is official, we could possibly have some weather issues. So could cause some weird things to happen, especially some of those people that are not running for the championship. I stated maybe like a Michael Mcdowell or somebody like that, who, really doesn't have anything to lose by changing their pit strategy and staying out. People that are trying to get stage points and stuff are pitting and trying to keep on the normal cycle, and the rain comes out, they stop the race, and then they decide, oh, we can't get any more in, and then all of a sudden you have a top three of Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, and Eric Jones.
That's definitely
and
something we can
all
see
the
tomorrow.
favorite cars finish 27th, 28th, and 29th. but not
God,
saying
I hope that doesn't happen.
But crazier things have.
Right. Well, there was the 1 year at Pocono where Chris Buescher won because of rain. Similar situation. Midway through the race, rain hits and it's already official, and they just decided to call it. That's what you get out in Pond, PA, or wherever it is.
Long Pond.
Long Pond. That's what it was. Yeah. So Richmond, and leave it to NASCAR to not move up the start time of the race, or try to accommodate a full race for the weather forecast, because that's something they've never done before, ever. They've never decided, hey,
they're out of excuses, because all the changes they had to make last year with COVID completely broke all the norms, and everybody was perfectly fine.
Exactly.
And it worked. But then we had Tuesday night races and all kinds of crazy things, and now we're back in the box again.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It irritates the hell out of me. Moving on before we get down that 60-minute conversation. But we have some picks to talk about here. We are breaking down this field for you for DraftKings purposes and FanDuel as well. If you do, Mega, throughout the show, have yourself a nice FanDuel spot, give the guys an insight on that as well. We have the Toyota's Owners 400. How many laps we got this week?
It's a 400, so I believe it's 400.
It's 400 is 400. All
yeah.
Right, 1 mile track. All right, 1 mile track around Richmond this week. And we have Martin.
That's what I'm assuming it is, but we have had 400s that were 400 kilometers, and not it was weird. It was it a Darlington race where there was a 500 and a 400, but the 400 had more laps than the 500 because one was a mile and one was kilometers. And
that was COVID, wasn't it? I think I remember that. Whatever. On that, not my finest hour here as a host, but I digress. Anyway, we have Martin Truex Jr. starting on the pole. Leader of 519 laps in the last 5 races at Richmond with 2 wins, 11-4. What are your thoughts on Martin Truex Jr., and is this a community cash play?
I think so. Either he or Hamlin, who are starting, 1 or 2 is going to get out front, and probably just we've seen in most of these races, clean air is king, and you get out there. It all depends on Hamlin's setup. He's just He's much better than Harvick with it. They're teammates, but like we said last week in the show, it seems like these Gibbs guys don't share notes with one another. Like they help out Christopher Bell, but it's like between Kyle Busch and Truex and Hamlin, like there's such a wall between the teams that it's just amazing. But they're both there, and maybe they'll work together. But I think Truex definitely, he's done really well on this type of track. He's having a really good season. He's in great form. They've got the crew has this car figured out. So even if Hamlin gets out there, I think Truex is the one that can like chase him down and pass. And we saw that last week. So
yeah. And Truex is going to pick the bottom, and Hamlin's going to get stuck out on top. And as long as Truex gets a nice restart, good start, it's going to be, he doesn't spin the tires or anything. He'll get his clean air. He'll get the bottom lane, which is the preferred lane at Richmond. He should have no problem getting up front, and he should have no problem leading the first half portion of this race. I don't believe there is to be a competition caution either, so he could lead the majority of the first stage. And I think Truex is a cash play, probably going to be in the majority of my lineups, as well as Hamlin. Even though Hamlin, I assume, will have to battle for that front spot, I don't think he's going to fall outside the top 5 in this one. And that place differential points could certainly be helpful, and maybe some laps led at some point in the race as well.
I know we're going like piece by piece here, but just looking at the starting 8, it's pretty interesting because you have the 2 teammates there. You have 2 teammates behind them in Elliott and Byron. Then you have Larson in 6th place. So you've got 3 Hendricks cars there. Then you have 2 Penske cars starting 5th and 7th, which will be nose to tail in Logano and Blaney.
Yep.
And then throw in Christopher Bell, who's another Gibbs car. This could be interesting.
Right. No doubt about it. I do like the price tag on Christopher Bell as well. You did say Gibbs, and Gibbs has won 5 of the last 10. So I have to think that this winner is going to come from the Gibbs camp, or possibly Penske, as we've seen Keselowski win it before.
He was dominant in 20. So
yeah, do you think Chase Elliott or William Byron have a shot here with Hendrick?
Chase Elliott, he's not been great at Richmond. One thing we talked about
the 10s though.
Right. We talked about that the Toyotas have been good, and we talked about Penske has been good here, and throw Logano also in there with Keselowski in doing well here. So last year, before the championship run, where they had to go to Richmond as one of the title races in the fall, the Chevys got together, the main 2 teams, which would be Childress and Hendricks, and they started comparing notes and working on tech together. And there was a significant difference. I don't know if that difference is enough to overcome at this point. Chase Elliott, it would surprise me if he got out and led. No, but I'm treating him more as a GPP. I like his price break from the top 2, but I don't think in cash, he's super safe. Byron, he's a wild card, but the thing that concerns me is he's got a newer pit crew chief, and I don't believe he's ever set up a car to race at Richmond before. So he's just relying on notes and not experience. So that could be a factor.
Yeah. Otherwise, Byron does have some nice finishing positions at Richmond Motor Speedway.
And at 8.5, it's very low compared to the rest of the top 10, besides Bell, who we mentioned before.
Yeah. So I don't mind either of the 2. I do think if I had to pick one, I guess it would be Elliott over Byron. But my thoughts are Truex and Hamlin, and figure out the rest. But we have Joey Logano and Kyle Larson, as you had mentioned. Seems to be a lot of talk on Kyle Larson as a good betting ticket this week. You had spoke earlier before we got on here pre-show that you did like Larson. So sell us on Larson and why we should be rostering Larson.
I like Larson. I don't know if he'll fit in my cash build, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But he has done well here. I believe it was 16 or 17. I think he won the race at the end of it. It was an overtime race. He's been doing really well this year. Last week, everybody said he's going to struggle. Martinsville's not a good track for him, but he had speed. He did really well. Phoenix is a very similar track. It's the high downforce. It's the same packages they're going to be running here. So he was really good there. I think he had a start at the back of the field. I think he had, I don't know if that was one of the ones where he had the mechanical or failed inspection or something like that, but he kept making his way up. It's just like traffic was just so hard, he never really got there, but he had some fast laps and he was definitely good. So he started sixth. I could see him going up a couple of positions, but again, I just think you really want to try to get Truex or Hamlin in your lineup and then some other guys coming up. So I don't know, maybe on like FanDuel where it's easy to get like 3 studs up there because,
Right.
the lower price guys are really low priced or DK, the pricing is more dynamic. So it's,
Sure.
it's harder to make a build like that because if you put in like 3 10K 11K cars, then you're playing Smithley with Joy and McLeod to round it out, and that's not fun.
No, it's too up top this week. That's for sure. Any love for Logano, Christopher Bell, Kevin Harvick, Blaney, some of these guys that are rounding out our top 10 here?
Logano, definitely. I think, actually, as I look at my raw projection data before I do anything with it, Logano rates out number 3 with the highest projection. So,
Wow.
And I think that's just based on what I used for a projection was I used Darlington last year, but I also used similar tracks like Phoenix last year. I used Phoenix this year and Martinsville. So like some current form and stuff. And, he seems to pop, like his speed rating was number 2, Truex being number 1. So, as we look at it, it's
Could be
like
a dark horse right there.
Yeah, Hamlin came out 4. Chase Elliott was 8th that we just talked about, and Larson was 6th. So, but Blaney, I think he kind of struggles here. I think this track seems like it's kryptonite a little bit. Like,
it looks like a fade.
We said he's better at like those 1.5 mile ones, like a little bit longer track.
Yeah, got him as a fade. Christopher Bell, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch gonna round out the top 10.
Yeah, Bell, I like his price, and if he's getting any notes from either Hamlin or Truex, then I think starting 8th, if he can stay up in the top 5, maybe he'll get up and sniff and lead with pit cycling or something like that. But at that price, I think you can look to him potentially in cash. Harvick, I'm still just not on him this year. Like maybe the 1.5 mile tracks, but I just so wish we had like practice or something just so we could like see these cars run and the setup and know like if he's out there and dominating, it looks like they nailed the setup, then he'd be somebody. But with this like mystery box every week that before
when he missed the Atlanta setup, I was like, forget it. Not going to roster Harvick the rest of the year.
It's
not confidently, at least.
Like if you listen to some of his radio chatter too, like he and like Rodney Childress are like back and forth at each other on it too. It's just like blaming each other. It's just it doesn't seem like there's really good chemistry anymore.
Something's going on. You're right, absolutely right. And let's get ahead of it. Let's keep fading Harvick and focusing our shares towards the cars that are running well. I do want to play some Kyle Busch this week, though. 2 wins in the last 5 races at Richmond with 431 laps led. I know he is, kind of random, and he's not the Kyle Busch that he used to be. He did fail to win the truck race today with probably the fastest truck on the track. So, well, arguably the second or first fastest truck on the track, but certainly a guy that can pull off a win here and, let you know how displeased he is about running in second for as many laps over the radio waves. Your thoughts on Kyle Busch?
If you want, he's going to be the first guy in your head-to-head this week against me, I guess. He's a GPP for me. I just can't play him, just like Harvick. I know, would it ever surprise me if he goes up there and does well and dominates the race and wins? No. But I think the likelihood of that is more like 20% than 80%. So
sure. Definitely not a play that I'm going to be all in on, but something I do like playing in GPPs. Unless I see his ownership is going to be high, then I am a fade for
like
Kyle Busch
Harvick, they have
at high ownership.
Yeah, like Harvick, they have down to 9.4. He's still 10K. So I just think the pricing is just a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
If he was 8.5, then I'd say okay, yeah.
Fair. I think that's fair. Austin Dillon running 11th.
Intriguing.
One top 5, average 10, average finish of 10 at Richmond. I think he's an interesting play.
Yeah, at some 5, I definitely would say borderline cash, definitely GPP. Again,
GPP
with the changing we'll talk about the tech notes between the Chevys there. He definitely was one that benefited in the last race.
Yeah, I liked what he did last year, and I think Austin Dillon's been running pretty decent this year, and I think Richmond's not a bad track for him.
The driving's better than his dressing.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Then the haircuts. Next up, we have Chris. We have like a little pocket here of Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse. I'm not really feeling those three at their starting position. I think the volatility of Reddick and Stenhouse and their starting spots have me completely out on them. I always love playing Chris Buescher, but I think he's starting just a little too high for me. So what are your thoughts on those three? And hopefully they're the same.
I definitely say fade Buescher. Actually, Reddick, he's another Childress car. He's a little bit cheaper than Dillon. I can see him in GPP. I don't really mind Ricky Stenhouse here.
Really?
Yeah. 62.
Oof.
Wow.
62
okay, so
is
here's the
decent price tag.
head-to-head.
Yeah. Let me mark that down. Well, if you're going to have him in some head-to-heads, then I'm going to have him in some lineups because I can't. I mean, I like taking Reddick at those mile and a half tracks that you run the high groove, and you're going to have to stick those left side tires on that track, on the yellow lines.
I completely agree with that. I was talking about Stanton. The one that I like.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I'm just thinking out loud about Reddick. I think that just him and Buescher are going to be the fades for me in this range. And then I'll plant my flag with Dillon and Stenhouse for, just outside the top 10 value plays. Because, DK is going to keep doing this pricing all year, and you're going to have to start doing different kinds of builds when it comes to lineup construction. So I'm starting to take more chances with the value plays outside the top 12 and in hopes that they finish where they started or maybe creep into the top 10 with a really good setup with some clean air, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all going to come together in a couple more picks. So I can see where the road is leading here. So let's continue on.
Got it.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. We have Bubba Wallace to Benedetto. These are two plays similar in price tag, starting 15th and 16th.
Yeah, I kind of like Benedetto with having the connection with the Penske cars. So Bubba Wallace, I still don't know.
I'm in wait and see mode.
Yeah, he did well in Martinsville. He actually got out there and led, but then ended up, I think, finishing in the teens. So there's sparks. There's just not fire yet.
I worry about how he finishes races. Doesn't seem to be a guy that can close it out. He's doing really well for 7 innings, and then when you bring in the setup guy that's a little sketchy, he starts walking guys, and then it's like, oh crap, you're going to blow this game. And that's kind of how I feel about Bubba Wallace.
I think with patience too. Like he's still a relatively young driver. And if you watch the Martinsville race, he just started like mixing it up with guys and just like, okay, if they're faster than you, just let them go. And then, let them be aggressive and wreck in front of you. And then just, keep your nose clean. And
yeah, I think that's lack of crew chief experience. I think his crew chief isn't calming him down. And I think their car setup gets worse as the race goes on. Like they do so well off the hauler. Like I always see them starting and running pretty good up front for the most of the race. And then I'm like, yeah, but this is Bubba Wallace. He's going to finish like 25th because he's going to blow it. And he always does. He never lets me down. So I'm going to keep going with the wait and see. I do like Benedetto on short tracks. So I'm going to continue with that. Kurt Busch has led over 113 laps in his.
He's been racing for 100 years. So that's like 1 lap a year.
Hey, this is in the last 5 years. Okay, I had to make sure I got that. I had to make sure
he's a good veteran. I like him.
And he's starting 17th. I don't think he has much speed this year, though, and not many people are talking about how much a lack of speed Kurt Busch has.
Right.
He doesn't seem to be getting anywhere close to the top 10 in my point. So I don't know. I'm conflicted here.
Let's watch next week in Talladega and see, like, can he keep up with like the draft and things like that? Because he's been more of a super speedway racer and of like kind of like a road. But I mean, again, like I said with Kevin Harvick in the last video, when you've raced for like as many years as you can, you've had phases where you've been great in everything. So
sure,
I'm sure.
No, I'm more on the fade this week because I don't think Chip Ganassi has that kind of speed we're looking for, because if you look at the history of Kyle Larson
starting behind him, in 18th is a fade for me, even at 6K. Like I completely agree.
And Larson over the years in his Chip Ganassi car didn't have many good finishes, so I think I might be fading Kurt Busch and Ross Chastain, planting up my flag with Benedetto, and the next couple of guys we're going to talk about here. Ryan Newman at 7K, and then the highest priced driver on the slate, Keselowski at 12K, but they are starting in some decent starting position spots. I think these are going to be two focal points in my lineups. Talk about Mr. Newman and creep into some Keselowski talk.
I definitely like Newman at the price, his experience. As we always said, he is so hard to pass. That's I think
works so well at Richmond.
Maintain his position and do well. And he was actually up in the top like 5, wasn't he? Or pretty much for Martinsville. So there's definitely some.
Yeah, he had a really good showing last week too. You were on that, I have to admit.
And the one thing is, like Keselowski, I think he's probably gonna be the highest owned driver. He's starting 20th. He won this race last year here, actually kind of dominated it. Like nobody could really touch him. Penske's good here. So I think I have him projected as the second highest driver. Truex is number 1.
Right.
Points,
I agree.
Coming back at like, almost 6.5x value to his salary. So here's the problem. And now I'll get to, where it was leading. If I'm looking at my lineup here, and let's just fast forward to the bottom and let's just get this out of the way right now. One of the biggest locks in the slate is going to be Austin Cindric. He's starting last, 38th. Yeah. He is in a Penske car, and he will definitely be able to get 40, 50 DK points just on place differential. You're looking at probably a car that's going to finish in the mid 20s, passing like Smithley, LaJoy, McLeod, Haley, where this field is finally set up where you have the faster cars up top and you don't have like the mismatches. But I think he's a good driver. Granted, it's Xfinity. It's like, high school kids going to college and college kids going to the NFL.
Penske,
the speed of the game is different, but the talent is still there. The equipment is better. So anyways, if I'm looking at how we've been talking here, using Truex or Hamlin up top, using Keselowski, throwing in Cindric, that only leaves you an average of 6,000 to fill out your lineup. So that's why I'm looking at Stenhouse. And that's why, I'm looking at some of who are the most solid 5K guys I can get in to finish off.
Yeah.
If I could drop down to Hamlin, or if I even go down to Larson, I mean, that gives me like one of these 7K guys that we're talking about, like Newman. So like he would fit in there. So I think as you build your lineup, you gotta kind of in cash lock in Keselowski and Cindric. And then you need to figure out up top who you want as your dominator, who you think's gonna get out there and lead early. And then
Right.
it's imperative to play like some of these guys that we've been talking about. So that's why I said like I feel Stenhouse can fit there. Bubba Wallace, you said is questionable, but kind of fits in the price range, maybe a little high. But Newman, going down.
Yeah,
below,
Newman.
plus, yeah.
Even
Next we have Cole Custer.
Austin Dillon.
Right.
Oh, my favorite, Cole Custer. He is the Xfinity winner of this race, though. So I hate to admit that I have interest at 6,800.
Yeah, but he's in the price range. He's starting in the 20s. Again, Stewart Haas has been great, but I think that we kind of talked pre-show. If you look at the people below him, there's not many people that potentially
nobody's passing them
can get past them. Well, Ryan Newman's not letting anybody pass him besides probably Brad Keselowski, so everybody's going to just be behind them and nobody's moving anywhere. He's going to be like a crossing guard with a stop sign up.
I think Newman is not a sure thing top 15, but he's going to be pretty close to a top 15 this week. And then, drivers like Bowman, Almirola, Keselowski, Cindric, I think are posing the biggest threats to pass someone like Newman. So I'm more team Newman than I am Custer, but I certainly can't be naive to think that Cole Custer is a good play at 68, starting 21st. Finish where you start, kid. Just try to pass one of these Ganassi cars that's got no speed this year. Just, you know what I mean? Just like do your job for once and don't be Mr. 28th place, because I can't stand it anymore. It's Stewart Haas values driving me nuts this year. With that said, do you have interest in Almirola 82? I think I honestly think it's too expensive, all things considered, for a guy I don't think can finish inside the top 15.
Yeah, he's had some speed here, and his crew chief has done well setting up for this track. However, like you said, pricing wise, in a GPP, I think he's a phenomenal play. But pricing wise for cash, like if we're going with like the build which makes the most sense here, he just doesn't fit in the price range.
Right. You can't play Cindric, Almirola, and Keselowski Truex. I think you're only playing Almirola if you're fading Keselowski and then just playing a couple of guys in these 8K, 7-8. Like if you went like Truex, Christopher Bell,
I think you
Almirola,
need to
Cindric.
Truex is the one that you need to fade. Like even if I'm looking at it here, if I throw in like William Byron as my guy up top there, like Newman, I mean that gives you 83 left. So Almirola would fit in that line. That's like the only
exactly
I would see it.
So you're more team Kez over Truex and GPPs.
No, in cash, because Keselowski has the dual of place differential and the possibility to get up there, lead laps, half fastest laps as he gets up there too.
True. That's a good point.
So I think it's imperative that you start with Keselowski and Cindric, and like I said, you figure out which guy works up top. And Truex's price is going to be really constraining because, like I said, you're left with 6K. So right now, let's just fast forward down a little bit. I think the best guy in the value range, we have Michael Mcdowell here at 58. And I joke that he could win the race. I think he's going to slide back. I think 23 is still a little too high, but if he works like pricing
still
wise,
fade until Talladega.
Yes, but I think in this case, I think he could be a GPP because he's around the price and he's better than all the rest of the guys that you could have besides one.
No, I agree.
Ryan Preece. And I think Ryan Preece has to be your value lock starting 25th. He's got a circled car. He has actually done well in lower circuits on like shorter tracks like this. So he's one that I would definitely.
I love Priest. Yeah,
So if you throw Priest into our soup mix,
gotta
here,
throw Priest.
that
You're
gives
gonna
you-
have to play Suarez this week. I can't wait. You have to.
Yeah,
His starting
I
position.
don't even know
and
if I can
his
get
price tag.
because if I throw in Priest here with this mix, that gives me 6,200 left for my last two guys, and
Ooh,
yeah, and
that would be McDowell, wouldn't it?
it could be McDowell, it could be Stenhouse, Busher, but we said Busher's a fade. Chastain we said is a fade. It's like these 6K guys are the kryptonite. Chase Briscoe, who I liked last week, and I put in the head-to-head against you. And thank you for your friend this week, Kyle Busch, for taking out the field and taking out Keselowski and lighting Daniel Suarez on fire in the same event.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. So I won the head-to-head, but I didn't really like dominate it. It was a war of attrition. So
it was a one moment instance and it was over. It was like, okay, well, that was fun. Oh well. I'm getting you this week. Who's my guy?
You took Kyle Busch.
All right, going back to the Busch wheel. And you had
Stenhouse.
Stenhouse. Okay, so you need to have an off-ball GPP play from up top. Who's your off the wall pick?
Can I take Larson?
All right, you go with Larson and Stenhouse. I'm gonna go with Kyle Busch and Suarez again. Okay. We'll see how this ends.
But I do like Briscoe again here too at 64 in 26th position. Stewart Haas, so he's not like lower. He's not a Rick Ware car or Spire or something like that. I think that
he's supposed to do well.
Yeah, I think he can get 35 DK points, which would be 5.5x. I'll take that.
Sure. It's just he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. And I wonder if Briscoe's not ready for this series. I honestly do. It could be a lot of
none of us saw that Clint Boyer was going to retire. And, I think it was just I think it took the team by surprise. And
I kind of don't think Briscoe's ready, but I think he's a great talent. It's just,
there's a lot in the industry that have been down on Tony Stewart. They say he's like one of the worst GMs ever when it comes to like picking talent for his cars.
I believe it.
Yeah. If you look it through, like, and we're not going to spend time like going through like the whole list but he had Danica Patrick, didn't he?
Yep. He had Danica Patrick. He had Ricky Stenhouse, before Stenhouse left. And then I think he got better after he left, didn't he?
Yeah.
Winning for the 47. Yeah. And there you have it.
And got Harvick towards the twilight of his career. So.
Yeah, well, Harvick's probably the outlier of the situation, and he did win a Daytona with Kurt Busch, but
right.
Other than that, you can't really put your thing. Clinton Boyer is a heck of a racer. People don't realize how many wins Clinton Boyer has to his credit, and he didn't really do much for Stewart Haas Racing. So I'm down on the team, and I'm not sure what to do. I would rather play Suarez than Briscoe, but as we know, I'm the Suarez homer of the video. Gonna go right back to the well. I think Trackhouse learned their lesson last week. There was their wake-up call after running inside the top 20 most of the week. So I think they bounced back well here at Richmond.
I haven't seen a car burning that much since Angela Roush in the Daytona truck.
Oh my God, dude, that car was on fire. If anything else, that thing was gonna set. That was gonna like.
Did you see him jump up on the fence? He's like, "Yo, somebody help me here! Car's on fire. Yeah. Nobody's coming."
It's like the jet dryer exploded. It was pretty incredible.
Oh, that was the best.
But as we did miss on Alex Bowman. Any interest in Bowman?
Oh yeah, wow. Where is he?
Yeah, we did skip right over him. 8,800. I think he's starting in the 20.
If you can get him, in, like I said, Hendrick is definitely improved here, and he hasn't had a good season, but he's a good driver. It's like it's got to come together at some point, and I think it's going to come together sooner for him than it is for like Harvick or Kurt Busch. So I
Yeah,
think,
balanced builds definitely fit him well.
yeah,
Yeah,
you would, what you would have to do would be going like all differentials. You'd have to uh, hope that like Chase Elliott is the one that let's
I was gonna say you need a balanced
Chase in
driver
at
to dominate.
9.4. Well, let's put Chase in at 9.4 and then put in Bowman. That would, goodness, leave you 5-3 for your last driver there. Yeah,
It's a tough week for builds.
that
Not gonna
hurts.
lie.
Wow. And I think this is cool that we're kind of doing it for the people. Like, I know this is probably going longer than when you usually do, but I think there's a lot of value in just in seeing how like we kind of like build our lineups and figure out and it and kudos to DK not making it like a buffet where you can take whatever you want to. You have to make some decisions here, which is good. So everybody's not going to have the same cookie cutter lineup, and if it hits and you have like the 500 people tying for the top of a GPP, and instead of winning 5K, you win $15.
Exactly. And I like that too. The harder the better, in my opinion, because there's a lot of luck involved at times, especially in DFS NASCAR, and making sure that there isn't duplicated lineups, I think only benefits people financially. So I like it.
And I think we can probably end right here because like Eric Jones is the other viable
nothing
guy,
else to say. We already said.
But he seems to be a little bit high priced at 76, even though he started in 30th. Might get someplace differential there, but his equipment's been a little. I mean, he's petty, but it just really.
I lump in petty with all the other small teams now.
Okay.
I don't even consider them. Yeah, I've seen enough to know that it doesn't matter who's driving.
Right, but Davidson, Alfredo, Balicki, Houff, or Quinn Hoof.
LaJoy would be the only thing I got.
Ware, Haley, McLeod, LaJoy, Smithley. I can't see playing any of them. They're all fades to me. So.
Yep. Not even gonna try. Not even worth it. You're gonna drive you nuts trying to figure it out too. Yeah. And then we had talked about Cindric being the lock button of the slate. Probably, I'm not lying. I think I might put him in 100% of lineups just to try and find the most optimal Cindric lineup I can and hope for the best. Yeah. And if he wrecks on the first lap like the Truck Series at Daytona, then I get screwed. Then I'm out a couple $100 and I just move on with my day.
Yeah, I don't think he's running into the back of Garrett, or he'd run into the back of Corey LaJoy. So LaJoy's been decent.
If he runs into the back of someone on the restart of the first start of the race, then I need to stop what I'm doing. All right, well, that should wrap things up for this week's breakdown. Mega, thank you as always for your efforts today. It was a profitable day. Let's hope for a profitable day tomorrow. If you want to find all of projections, cores, Discord chat, you can find that on our Twitter handle at FSI_DFS. And that link is in the bio. You can follow myself on Twitter at TKNation47 for the tilts on NASCAR DFS. And you can find all the celebration screens on Mega's at MegRuler31. Mega, anything else to add? And is there anything else going on for you here at FSI?
Oh, we're keep on grinding out baseball. McKinley 412, nice. And it was kind of frustrating tonight because we had a beautiful lineups and cores and stuff, and then Angels and Minnesota.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Well, the Minnesota line, it didn't release, and
that's what I was following too.
Yeah, the game was postponed due to COVID, and then we all had to switch. We all had to switch on to like Dodgers and San Diego, who have probably the two best pitchers in baseball going against each other in the same game. So nobody's getting any hits, even though they're elite hitters. So yeah, that's a train wreck. But earlier, we were on the Cardinals, and they Chicago figured out how to hit today.
I don't even think about Chicago on any slate, and it's just. You drive yourself nuts trying to get
more
Chicago
of this. Right. Join us on baseball.
No, baseball is a fun grind, and I think you guys are doing fantastic. You can find those triple play videos when they come out early mornings usually on our subscription channel at Fantasy Sports Insights. So follow hit
Tomorrow's
that
is already
subscription
up.
link. Tomorrow's already up, guys. So looking forward to another fun Sunday. Let's make it a profitable day. Mega, thank you. Thank everyone for listening, and see you next week.
Good luck, everyone.